John Farrell with the Farrell Law Firm. Today we're going to talk about why you should be cautious with adding people to your bank accounts. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We put out new videos almost every day. And make sure you hit the like button because, hey, every like helps. Today, by the end of the video, you're going to know why you should be cautious with adding people to your bank accounts. Several times a week, I'll have someone come to the office and tell me they've added their children to their bank accounts or they've added their children to the deed to their home. Let's talk about why you should be cautious with adding your children or anybody really to your bank accounts, investment accounts, real estate, or any type of asset, really. Recently, a parent came in, and I usually see this most with the surviving parent, and the parent said they added the child on their bank account for convenience. The convenience is that the child can pay bills for the parent if something happens to the parent, like they get into a car accident or become disabled in some way. But one thing they don't understand about having two people on a checking account is that the account is owned 100-100 by both people. This is what I mean. Let's say I own a home with my wife. We actually own that home 50-50. In other words, she owns 50% of the home and I own 50% of the home. That means I can do whatever I want with my 50%. I could take my 50% and sell it to my brother. He could then take that 50% and sell it to someone else. Then, all of a sudden, my wife would own half of a home with a complete stranger. Something like this actually happened in the news recently with the rock band Hall & Oates. One of them decided to sell their half of the music catalog to the dismay of the other. But checking accounts are a little different. Instead of owning it 50-50, my wife and I own it 100-100. That means my wife can go to the bank, take 100% of the money out of the account, and do whatever she wants with it. But I can too. That's the benefit of owning it 100-100. So when the surviving parent comes in and they tell me they've added an adult child to their checking account, they often don't realize the child now owns 100% of the account. This will usually manifest itself in one of three ways. First, the child gets into an automobile accident or has some credit cards they don't pay and a judgment gets entered against them, and the creditor goes after the money in the surviving parent's bank account. Second, the child decides to use the money in the surviving parent's checking account for their own purposes instead of for the parent's bills, and now the parent can't get it back. Or the child has an account at the same bank and for some reason that account has been overdrawn and the bank goes into the surviving parent's account for overdraft protection purposes. Now that the parent has been through some of these issues, they'll want to close the account, but it's just not that easy. Now that it's a joint account, you have to have the other person's help to close it. So the parent will take everything out of the account just like the child did and open a new bank account, maybe at another bank. I'm sure the parent wouldn't have wanted to go through this in the first place, but they didn't understand the pitfalls when adding another person to your bank accounts. Another time I'll see this as a problem is when a spouse will add a new spouse to the bank account. Maybe they are in a second marriage situation or even a third marriage situation. So the spouse will add the new spouse to their bank accounts and they don't realize it's now 100-100 with both spouses. There's a falling out between the two and the new spouse, just like the child in the previous story, goes to the bank and withdraws all of the money and skips town. There's one example. Another example is, and I've seen this before, the new spouse puts their money into the account and the first spouse takes all of the money out and hides it at another bank. This puts the new spouse in a bind because all of a sudden they've lost all their money and they weren't working at the time and their first spouse did it just to control the new spouse. So in second and third marriage situations, you may not want to put the new spouse on the account because you'll have to remember it will be just as much theirs as it is yours. I want you to be cautious with adding your child or a new spouse to your checking and savings accounts. And there are actually much better ways to handle those issues, which we'll be happy to discuss in later videos. Alright, that's all we have for today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because we put out new videos almost every day. And make sure you hit the like button because, hey, every like helps.